We'll just come together as a larger group for about 10 minutes and then we'll break for lunch. And I'll tell you all, you know, I'd just like to tell you that I was quite restrained teaching that. I'm quite naughty at making jokes a lot, and that's not, actually Feldenkrais cracks quite a few jokes when he's teaching that lesson because everyone got really serious. And I can't tell you how many jokes came into my head, and I'm just so happy to tell you that I suppressed all of them. Because I'm trying to behave myself, at least for today. We'll see. Because look, yeah, you know, how many jokes could you make about something? So what would you tell, hands up if anyone's going to go home and tell whoever they share with what they first did today. Would you tell your mum? No. So what did you come up with? How would you describe? Why do we do that? Why did we do that? I've got this. Anyone want to talk?
It does bounce.
It does bounce.
It was very interesting to concentrate on a bit of your body that you just don't concentrate on as much as you use it.
Yeah.
Just to be almost
just turn the black thing a little bit more towards you. Yeah.
Totally just being your lips was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not our usual Feldenkrais expansive attention thing, but it is a very well, the bizarre thing is, I mean, our lips take up a massive amount of brain space in the motor cortex and the sensory cortex. You know, they're very, very big. They're huge. So those of you who don't know my background, I work in neuroscience. I'm sorry to say I will be talking about the brain every now and again. And yet we don't pay attention to it very much. Okay. You can throw around. You like it, don't you?
It's quite fun, a little bit of coordination.
Yeah.
I think the reason why you got us to do that is one of the very first exercises. What we were talking about is because it's perhaps with the exception of breathing, as you were mentioning, it's one of the very first things that we ever do, and it's perhaps the first motivational movement we ever make. So the first little bit of control we have of all the muscles in our body, that kind of area.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
That's why we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's many, you know, we've spent a lot of time talking about, I'm going to have feedback depending on where that goes. I can move. Jenny's a audio. Well, what were you in a previous life? In audio engineering, something or other. Acoustic engineer. We've all got very interesting lives. Well, mine's not that interesting, but you know, acoustic engineer up the end there. Anyway, sorry. Sylvia?
Okay. I think we began with this movement because it's one of the first movements a baby do. He was very interested in how I'm talking about Feldenkrais, observing babies and observing, and this is the first thing that they do.
Yeah.
And I also think this is the very intimate part.
It is.
I felt a little ashamed.
Yeah.
And I have to break the don't be ashamed about this kind of moment.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you for putting that out there in the room. Because that's a big part of it, right? Yeah, that's right. I'm still feedback. Oh, okay. So you don't, if you don't want to say, but it's you know, so this first thing that we do, and somehow or other we've developed a shame about it. Now, how the hell does that happen? Isn't that? Don't you find that so interesting? That something that we use to survive, that's what we did to survive. And babies who can't do that are in mortal peril. And then somehow as adults, we get, where did all that, for want of a better word, shit come from? You know, the shame part of it, like it's just, doesn't it do your head in? It's just, I find it fascinating. I mean, because we all have this, I'm not saying everybody in the room had that reaction, but it is a common reaction to that lesson, is this inhibition. And, you know, so we're very purposeful about close your eyes. It's very confronting. And I remember it in our training, going, what the hell? Like, oh my God, is this what I've come up, you know, all this way for? So feel free to feel any of those things, but hopefully, you know, with my promptings about the thinking and the feeling part of it, you could start to track those things and see them as distinct possibilities, not denying them, because, you know, the shame is it is what it is. Where it come from is, I'm not, you know, going for endless things. Anyway, Richard.
Oh yeah, we were talking about stuff that maybe connected to the shame part of it, but I mean, my experience was one that I think on the other side of feeling shame is actually a sense of liberation.
Yeah.
You know, which can be really quite highly enjoyable.
Yeah.
But we talked a lot about the relationship between infant and mother, and I suppose then the emotional kind of basis of that. And also, I think we could talk about. I think sucking has got something to do with sexuality as well.
Sure. Yeah, that's something that happens in, you know, in adulthood. Yeah,
and so it's a confusing connection.
Yeah.
You know, it can be if you haven't kind of come to a place of resolution of whatever it is with your mother and infant relationship, or mother and child. Yeah, perhaps that's got a, aside from the physiological and the motivation thing, that's our first, we're talking about the intimacy of the first intimate relationship. And then we're talking about trauma and the way that things can get lodged within you.
Sure.
You know, and so my kind of perception of things is that you get layers of things that build up within yourself and they kind of can unfold. So going back to the very first one maybe helps all the other ones unfold after it.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Great. Yep.
I would just like to add, the mouth is an amazing opening organ or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just, that ability, like I always wig out on speech. And eating is also incredible, and the taste, and like you said, I don't know, but that it takes so much of our brain or whatever, like occupies our mouth, and for it to like suck.
Yeah. It's a very powerful action. Now, I mean, my hand immediately goes to my breast actually, because this is maybe to make sure, when babies are feeding, they are incredibly powerful. Like there is no, once they latch on, they are latched on, and their intention and their motivation is 100%. Empty you out, and it's a great thing, but it can be very painful too, because there is no equivocation about it. You know, the functionality of that movement is unequivocal once a baby's really got it, right? You know, and I was laughing with my my stepdaughter-in-law, my step-grandson, I have a complicated life, is now 6 months, and we were out for dinner for my son's birthday Friday night. And Hugo, when I saw him a couple of months ago, he would take 35, 40 minutes to feed. He's being breastfed. He was getting cranky in the restaurant. And so she took him out, somewhere out in the boy or something. And he was fed in 2 minutes. So the efficiency of it, I just went, he's a good little sucker now. And she goes, yeah, he is a great little sucker. Out, it's done. It's incredibly powerful, efficient action. Now, not actually, to be honest, you all looked a bit piss weak, to be really honest. Like you would not have stripped a breast quickly. Sorry. Satiated. Satiety is the word. So being satiated is the feeling of fullness, like I've had enough. Right? And we will talk about satiety a lot, satiation, because it's one of those things where, Feldenkrais uses it as one of his examples of how we get socialized in a way to not paying attention to our inner needs. When have we had enough? Right? So that's why I really like that idea of when is enough enough? When am I satiated? When have I had enough lamingtons, when have I had enough conversation, when have I had enough sleep, and how do I make that decision? A lot of you said, you know, your great day was when I can wake up when I've had enough. So in a way, that's being satiated with having enough sleep. Whereas most of us, we wake up because we have to, because the alarm goes off and we haven't had enough, or we overeat because we don't pay attention to that we are satiated, or we don't, whatever it is. So this idea of having enough, when is enough enough? And how do I make that decision for myself? I have to pay attention to myself, right? Okay? Yes, you could have, I have had enough of this crap. Now in this room, sometimes you will get up and walk out because you will be satiated. I've had enough of this crap. I need to go for a walk. You know, who's the outdoor? You might go, I can't bear being in this room any another moment. I need to get outside. And it's paying attention to that and knowing sometimes you have to kind of put up with the discomfort. And sometimes it's making those decisions. Anyway, we're sort of jumping ahead a little bit, but that's part of it. Any other comments?
Yes.
Yes.
It was the connection with this, sort of trying to remember what it was like to swallow and realizing in order to swallow you have to have a vacuum. And then when you engage the jaw, then the whole body, you know, the whole tube. And then remembering when babies actually are feeding and then how the whole tube gets engaged and then it comes out the other end.
Yeah, that's right. Perfect.
But the whole,
Perfect. Yeah.
sort of wormy thing.
Yeah.
That they do.
Yeah. So the jaw is quite interesting. So if I would, you know, and I didn't mean to make a joke about the you sucked at sucking. Because I told you I wasn't judging, then there you go, I judge. I'm just making a joke. But for a lot of you, the jaw was not involved to start with. To really be powerful, the jaw becomes free, right? Yeah. Just, Philippa, just give a big chuck. There you go.
I was finding that after having lamingtons and tea, the imagining eating more was just actually put me off and I actually fell asleep.
Yeah, yeah.
I was satiated.
Yeah, yeah. So that really speaks to the primacy of this. It didn't make sense. That function wasn't there for you. You couldn't fake it because it wasn't. It didn't come out of something that you needed.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely fine.
And I imagine if I was hungry, I would have been right.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
wait for the microphone. There we go.
Does the sucking also activate the lung movement?
It can do. Yeah. So the breathing as part of the sucking, because babies breathe and suck at the same time. So coordinating the breath with the rhythm of the breathing. But sometimes, you know, again, those of you who've breastfed, you know, when babies have got clogged up noses, sucking is really hard because they have got that vacuum that you're talking about and they have to attach in order to breathe. So feeding is very difficult when they haven't got an easy breath that's nasal, actually. Behind you. Oh, sorry.
The other thing I was thinking about was, so we have this very primal reflex to want to suck from a survival point of view.
Yeah.
But it's also this really like that sense of comfort, like they need to suck even when it's small. They could have just had food. I'm still breastfeeding my 2.5-year-old and he still needs to suck.
Yeah, he wants
even
to.
If he's, if he you know, isn't getting anything, he just tells me that he's not ready to get off yet.
Yeah.
So, and it's that real sense of comfort when,
because it is the first intimate connection, as you mentioned. And sorry, second. Must be. You know, it's contained. It's, you know, then of course we have dummies, and then, you know, kids will do this. And some of you even had to remind yourselves about which we can go into.
Comfort and security.
There is a comfort and a security about that. And again, you think about neurologically, this part is a big part of our brain. So that's, you know, we are seeking a sensation that is familiar and comforting.
So yeah, just a few musings that I was having, not really sure whether it was the intention of the lesson or not, is how our society tends to focus on learning through vision, through what you take into your eye. It's a real emphasis on that. And the corollary of that is that other things get forgotten, like, your lips and your movements and
Yeah, sorry, I'm just fizzing about. I'm just going to keep moving until I can't stop.
Oh, it's got worse.
That box. I'll stay still. Okay.
The other thing though about the time taken to suck, I've had 3 children and 2 were very efficient, but the first one took about 40 minutes to feed as well. And I just thought that was because he took 40 minutes. Now I don't think that at all. I think he was just enjoying sucking. So I think there was some satiation and then some just pleasure. Yeah, sensation.
In the sensory experience.
Yeah.
And again, then think about those of you who've had, watched children. The first way, so that their first movement, let's say apart from breathing, is this seeking nourishment through the sucking thing. Then quickly, this is still their modus operandi for exploring the world, because everything that gets introduced to them goes into their mouth. And it drives parents sort of nuts because they'll come to everything I give him or her goes straight into the mouth. Well, that's their primary source of exploring the world, because their hands aren't under control yet, right? So tactile from a hand point of view, which is our next big thing, and of course their vision is not developed. So this is how they know their world, through here. And I remember working with a little child. I was teaching in Manila. There was a child with very, very severe disabilities. It was probably 3 or 4, and severe physical disabilities, but was blind and deaf as well. And the mother was so ashamed. She was translated to me. Every time the little boy put his hand into his mouth, she'd leap forward and snatch his hand out of his mouth and the object. And she was getting really agitated. And I was going, "What's going on with the mum?" And the mum was ashamed that her boy, who was 3 or 4, who should know better, kept on putting everything in his mouth. Her shame was extreme. And she thought that I wouldn't want to work with him because he was so retarded, because everything was in his mouth. And I said to her, I tried to explain to her, you can't see, you can't hear. This is his way of experiencing the world. Like, he does not know the world. He can't learn without this, because this is his primary thing. And this is what we have to use. This is our doorway into his nervous system. I didn't say it like that because that wouldn't translate easily into dialogue, would it? But anyway, to try and diffuse that. And these weird things about shame that came in there that didn't have anything to do with the sexual side of the shame stuff or that cross motivation. In that sense, it was just this. It's extraordinary. It's very interesting that we cut this off, but we don't actually, because why do people spend $500 going to Blumenthal's restaurant in Melbourne? You Melbourneites, you've got way too much money. Where they have all these sensory experiences and different textures, and it's there. It's still there. But anyway, we'll time for one more comment. Sorry, there. But two more comments.
So one of the reasons I thought that you might have been doing that as a first up activity was because it's a pre-language, pre-verbal activity, and so therefore to take us more into that real pure sensory experience where there's kind of no words for some of those things, and it's purely sensory.
Great. Yeah. It's come up with all the things that this is why we believe he did it. Because he didn't tell us why he did it. Oh, he did up to a point. This is why we think this is such a valuable, confronting, rut shifting exercise. We're in a rut. We're in a sensory rut. This jolts you out of it big time.
Yeah, and it separates out that thinking from feeling. Yeah, in that way.
Now, up that end, there was one more comment. Oh, yeah, everybody's had their turn. I just don't want you to Because I know you'll want each to go out there and eat a mango.
Yeah, exactly. And just with that pure sensory experience, in opposed to like the faculties of the mouth are always present and varied and broad and amazing and all that. But the way we use it usually is like you said, just so indulgent, and we're just nice chocolates and good texture and sweetness or whatever gets you, like hot food or whatever, like, you know, it's kind of that way. So it was nice having that really like vulnerable, like fragile, kind of emotional, just very fundamental and scoped around, I guess, which is how I perceive, like, you know, Feldenkrais, or what the form was kind of like built to kind of bring that into view, which is,
Great.
I like.
Good. All right. So you come back after lunch? When we teach that, it's like, will they come back? Will they go, what the hell? Anyway, there you go. I ran myself in. Have a nice lunch.